Drake drops new double album Scorpion. Listen, Drake's new double album Scorpion here. Anticipation has been mounting all year for Drake's fifth album, Scorpion. Today, the wait is finally over as the Canadian rapper's new double album arrived. Scorpion includes 3 previously released singles. God's Plan came first as part of Drake's Scary Hours EP in January. The song went to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and held strong in that spot, making Drake the first male solo artist in history to keep more than one single in the chart's top spot for double-digit weeks. God's Plan appears as the 5th track on the first disc of Scorpion. Nice for What dropped in April, featuring a sample of Lauryn Hill's X Factor and dethroning God's Plan at number 1. In May, Drake released the 3rd single from Scorpion, I'm Upset, which he followed with a nostalgic video for the song focused around a cast reunion of Degrassi, The Next Generation, the Canadian teen television drama he acted on a decade ago. I'm Upset follows God's Plan as track 6 on disc 1, while Nice for What anchors disc 2 of Scorpion as track 4. With 25 tracks total, Scorpion defies the Kanye West-led trend of releasing relatively short albums. In West's case, all of his recent releases as a producer or artist from the Wyoming session have either 7 or 8 tracks. West also recently revealed Drake was indeed a co-writer on Yikes from Ye. Drake also used featured guests sparingly on Scorpion, but the album does feature Jay-Z on Talk Up, Static Major and Ty Dolla on After Dark, and even the posthumous appearance from Michael Jackson on Don't Matter to Me. Drake is all set to head out on tour in support of Scorpion. The Aubrey and the Three Amigos North American tour with Migos kicks off July 26 in Salt Lake City and wraps in Atlanta on November 17. For a list of dates and ticket info, visit Drake's website. Catching up on music news powered by the Recording Academy just got easier. Have a Google Home device talk to Grammys Joshua Bell. Up close personal in New York. Joshua Bell gets close personal. New York City guests of the Recording Academy New York chapter's Up Close Personal event with Joshua Bell experienced a rare musical and cultural moment. Not only did Bell treat the audience to a special performance and candid conversation about his latest album, Scottish Fantasy, he offered up his home, a gorgeous penthouse in Manhattan's Flatiron District, as the intimate location for the exclusive event. During his 30-year career as a soloist, chamber musician, recording artist, and conductor, Bell has become one of the most successful and recognizable musicians in the classical world. The Grammy winner has recorded more than 40 albums, been honored with countless awards and accolades, and collaborated with many musical giants, including Chick Corea, Gloria Estefan, Renee Fleming, Placido Domingo, Alison Krauss, and more. In 2011, Bell was named music director of the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields, the orchestra he conducts and performs with on Scottish Fantasy. In addition to his accomplishments as a performer, Bell has also been instrumental in the classical community for proliferating musical discovery and education. His zeal for his craft and joyful willingness to share his knowledge make it no surprise to see him right at home, literally and figuratively, during Up Close Personal. To kick things off, Bell brought out 4 talented young arts alumni for a performance of Leonard Bernstein's 1956 classic Candide Overture and Make Our Garden Grow, which featured a new custom arrangement by none other than composer-arranger Steve Hackman. Bell introduced the piece by recalling how a dear friend of his, actress Glenn Close, had asked him to perform something from Candide at her daughter's wedding. Hackman's unusual yet entrancing arrangement sang beauty, perfect for a walk down the aisle. Next up on the menu, Bell called upon pianist Alessio Bax to join him for what he called a little violin ditty, a captivating version of Pablo de Sarasate's Zygian Erweisen. Bell admitted he played the piece not only during his first ever violin recital at age 12, but again on his first appearance on The Johnny Carson Show in 1989. With the piece's rich history to draw from, Bell built upon the iconic melody to create something glorious by pulling, sliding and stretching across the neck of his instrument with one hand and sweeping, plucking and stabbing with the other. The piece climaxed with a series of vigorous strumming, impossible pull-offs and slapping of the bow that left some of its rosin strands dangling upon the final hit of the piece. Jaw dropped and head spun, the crowd cheered at Bell's ability, musicality and showmanship. Photo, Cindy Ord/wireimage.com. But Bell had even more magic in store for the audience. Producer, director and KQXR host Elliot Forrest came to the stage to discuss Scottish Fantasy with Bell and the album's prolific Grammy-winning producer, Adam Apes House. It turns out the process of recording the album was as refreshing and innovative for Bell as it was redemptive. The Bruch G minor violin concerto is probably one of the most popular pieces for the violin, said Bell. Bruch himself may not be as popular as Brahms or Beethoven today, but his violin concerto is played as much as any of the others. He was a wonderful composer, and a few gems that he did, like the concerto, is as good as anything written. And it's also the piece that most violinists record on their debut albums when they're little, and I did that as well. Bell followed with a story of taping the piece on his 19th birthday during his first recording sessions. It turns out he initially tackled the concerto 3 days after presenting Joshua Bell, an album Bell is proud of all these years later. Exhausted from the sessions, his first attempt at violin concerto No. 1 Indiana G minor suffered from a lack of rehearsal and a less than ideal setup for recording his first concerto album. This time around, Bell and Abe's House vowed to get it right, bringing the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields back after all these years to take a mulligan, as Bell put it, on the piece. It worked, and Abe's House's excitement about the final product was palpable and contagious. Scottish fantasy starts off, and it's funereal and it's dark, said Abe's House. In the span of basically 3 minutes, it goes from this incredibly dark place to the sun coming out. You hear the whole orchestra breathe. You can feel the inhalation and exhalation, and then the sun comes out. It is 4 of the most amazing minutes. When Joshua first comes in, there's this single note, and he makes it sound like HES over the hills. It's really like this piece of cinema. Auditory cinema. To have that captured and now preserved is one of the great highlights for me, and why I love this record so much. And that's just the first 4 minutes. Photo, cindy.ord/wireimage.com. Bell and Abe's House shed light on how they created, captured and constructed the album, focusing on the benefits of the recording in a studio as opposed to a live performance. Although he prefers the immediacy and definitiveness of a concert setting, Bell talked with great reverence at how Abe's House used certain recording techniques, not to fabricate a moment in time, but rather to accomplish the best listening experience possible. I don't think that we should judge recordings as the same art form as a live performance, said Abe's House. The studio gives you these tools that give you the time to analyze and reflect and then redo, and then alter what you've done and keep growing with it. Those opportunities are immensely rewarding. While Abe's House said he'd never let an audible edit out of his studio, he articulated how editing can be a valuable tool in the studio. Bell talked about how Abe's House's close miking techniques opened his mind to the possibility that the studio can yield a listening experience beyond what a concert hall can offer. He was especially invigorated by the way he and Abe's House worked together during the album's post-production process, which is not a topic often addressed in the world of classical recording. Getting in the studio is still not something I look forward to. I love performing where you've just got one shot at it, said Bell. But what I've learned after making 40 or 50 recordings is that you can actually use the studio to your advantage. I've learned how to use the recording process to make it hopefully an even better product. The evening concluded with a lively reception, giving guests a chance to speak personally with Bell, Abe's House and Elliott. Speaking with Bell afterwards, he was grateful to see many new and familiar faces, including some of the students and teachers HES inspired through his continued work with music education organizations such as Education Through Music. Abe's House made mention of his own charitable initiative, the Classical Recording Foundation. He founded the organization in 2002 to support artists and record labels of merit in their classical recording projects in the wake of diminishing funding from major labels, a worthy cause indeed. Throwing gatherings like this seem to come quite naturally to the Bell, who named watching sports, especially the World Cup and NFL football, and experiencing different foods as 2 of his main passions outside of music. I enjoy food a lot, Bell told me after the action. I've done several events here with amazing chefs. I've had David Bowie and Thomas Keller and others come into the house, usually in the name of a charity, and we do music and food. I love eating out, going restaurants in New York and on the road. Bell also teased that he dreams of opening his own restaurant someday, not a bad backup plan in case this whole violinist thing doesn't work out. Catching up on music news powered by the Recording Academy just got easier. Have a Google Home device talk to Grammys required listening. Billy Porter Jr. required listening podcast for 3 decades. Billy Porter Jr. has been blazing his own trail as a true quadruple threat artist. A singer, actor, songwriter, and playwright, Porter has found success on his own terms. Since bursting on the scene in the first revival of Grease, Porter has made various Broadway and film appearances and delivered a Tony Award and Grammy-winning performance originating the role of Lola in Kinky Boots. Listen now, Required Listening with Billy Porter Jr. Now, Porter has released his latest music triumph, the ambitious new album, Billy Porter Presents, The Soul of Richard Rodgers, and has taken on the charismatic role of Pray Tell on Ryan Murphy's new groundbreaking FX series Pose. His impressive body of work and continuous artistic evolution proves Porter's talent is matched only by his drive. Lucky for us, Porter joined us for an episode of the Grammy Museum's podcast, Required Listening. As Porter reveals to Required Listening host Scott Goldman, artistic director of the Grammy Museum, the stage called to him from an early age, starting with his time in church as a child. Interestingly, his new album embodies a soulful sound that harkens back to those church roots while infusing the flair and brilliance of his Broadway work. When asked why Broadway music and soul music work so well together for him, Porter says, "I think it is my journey to it. I grew up singing in the church, singing gospel music, singing R&B and soul music, and you know, my childhood wasn't so lovely. I was looking for stuff to occupy my time, get me out." In the 6th grade I was introduced to theater. Being on stage in a theatrical production and going to a Pentecostal church are kind of the same thing. Pentecostal church service on a Sunday morning is theater of the highest order. So it just worked for me. It sure did work. Billy Porter Presents, The Soul of Richard Rodgers feels uniquely his own, as he curated the project as a celebration of the work of the great Grammy-winning composer, Richard Rodgers. But he doesn't do it alone. Porter called upon his circle of musical friends to contribute to the album, including Pentatonix, Lady C, India Arie, Brandon Victor Dixon, Zaire Park, Leslie Odom Jr., and many more. Collectively, the project is an exhibition in collaboration, something that came naturally to the experienced entertainer. But the real glue that holds the album together, according to Porter, is the timeless familiarity and quality of the songs. When people know the song, the deconstruction of the arrangement becomes that much more amazing to them because they know where it came from. I think with Richard Rodgers' music, that was the pop music of the day, says Porter. Everybody on the planet knows a Richard Rodgers song, even if you don't know that you know one, so the music being in our DNA has allowed the project to resonate in a really great way. Porter didn't get to a place in his career where he could execute a project of this magnitude by sitting back and letting things happen. He came to Broadway through years of hard work, standing up for his artistry and refusing to be pigeonholed into roles granted by an industry that wanted his high-flying vocal acrobatics but were unwilling to help tell his story. Porter learned to make success on his own terms by demanding respect and challenging himself in new and different ways, something he has called owning the leader in me. I've always felt like a leader, but there was this part of me coming from the church, the idea of, you can't be braggadocious. It's a gift and therefore you need to be humble. And that's all good, says Porter. But the humility of it, for me, it reached a ceiling. I had to go, you know what, I actually know what I'm doing, and I actually need to be out in the front doing that. So I'm going to honor that. I'm going to own that. I'm going to have faith in that. I'm going to step out on faith and I'm going to do it. One thing is clear, Porter belongs on stage. He also left listeners of Required Listening with some valuable advice for other singers on how to find the path to where they belong. The only thing that you can be is the best version of yourself, says Porter. I lived it. People tried to make me something else because who I am and what I represent made them uncomfortable. So the minute you stop caring about that, you find your voice. Learn more. Listen to the full interview on the Required Listening podcast. Watch One Take with Tiesto. One Take T% C3% of Sto Iron Maiden touring texting. Few artists have been as influential in any genre as Tiesto has been for dance music. Look no further than mega hits such as Adagio for Strings, Feel It in My Bones featuring Tegan Sara, Lethal Industry, Traffic, and Love Comes Again. Just before the Grammy-winning producer took the stage for his headlining set at Ultra 2018, Tiesto sat down to play a round of One Take, Grammy.com's rapid-fire question game that challenges your favorite artist to see how many questions about life, music and everything in between they can answer in just 60 seconds. In this episode, Tiesto reveals his first concert, the first album he purchased with his own money, his least favorite part of touring, and more. Catching up on music news powered by the Recording Academy just got easier. Have a Google Home device talk to Grammys.